the first invited speaker of this conference, who is Kang Lee from University of Toronto. I've known Kang for more than 25 years. We used to work at the same institute at the same time. This was a magical place. It was called MRC, Cognitive Development Unit in London in the 80s and 90s of the last century or the last millennium. This was really a great place. Actually, accidentally, another speaker of this conference, I also met there first, is Anna Kristroff. You will hear her tomorrow, but let's go back to Kang. So when I first met Kang, he was also a very kind of versatile developmental researcher. He worked on many, many things. So theory of mind, metacognition, even language acquisition, psycholinguistics, face perception, so many, many different kinds of things. And then from London, he moved on to Canada and continued to work all of these things. And then he invented his own research project, which was on lying, which is interestingly related to all the other topics that he used to work on and is continuing to work on. So today he's going to tell us something about lying, his main research project. And Kang is not just an excellent and prolific researcher, but a really excellent and entertaining speaker. So I hope that you are going to enjoy his talk as much as I usually do. So Kang.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you for inviting me here. And it's a wonderful conference. I really have enjoyed it so far. So I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to steal some ideas from you guys, I hope. Anyhow, so 2023 is actually the 30th anniversary of the day of the year I made a fateful decision that I was going to study how children learn to tell lies. So along the way, we have made some discoveries. So today I'm going to share with you some of the findings we have obtained over the last 3 decades. But before I start my talk, I'm going to tell you a story from a friend of mine. This is Richard Messina, and he's a friend of mine, and he's a principal of our lab school. So one day he got a phone call. So the caller said, "Mr. Messina, my son Johnny will not come to school today because he's sick." So Richard asked, "Who am I speaking to, please?" And the caller says, "I am my father." So I really like this story. I've been telling about this story many, many times. The reason I like the story is because it tells us 3 common sense beliefs we have about children and lying. So number 1 is children only begin to tell lies when they get to elementary school. And if a child tells a lie earlier than elementary school, something must be wrong with the child. So the child would grow up to be either a criminal or the president of the United States. And the third one is, if a child does tell you a lie, the child's lies are so illy constructed that we adults can easily detect their lies. So these are the 3 common beliefs, and I want to show whether or not they are true. This talk is kind of academic expansion of my TED Talk. So if you have kids, I discovered that most of these viewers were kids. I don't know why. So if you want to let your kids learn about lying, and please show them this video, and then ask them why they like this video. So far I don't know why. Anyhow, so another thing I want to point out is, so the studies I'm going to tell you about today are really the collective fruits of international collaboration from people all over the world in my international research team. And in particular, I have Xiaopan Ding from Singapore and Shoji Itakura from Japan here in the audience. And also I would like to thank the funding agencies from the US, Canada, and China. And then I think I've spent close to about $10 million on a lot of studies online. My mom always complained that I was wasting government taxpayers' money for doing something totally useless. Anyhow, so this is the outline of my talk. So first I'm going to talk about theories of developmental lying very briefly. Then I'm going to talk about factors contributing to the development line. And then the third part is I'm going to talk about are children poor liars. And finally, I'm going to talk about contactless and the COVID light detection and beyond, if I have time. So let's talk about the theory part. So before I talk about the theories, I need to talk about type of lies we are talking about. It turns out there are many kinds of lies. So very first kind of lie is called white lie. So polite lies where you tell to spare another person's feelings. So these are pro-social lies. So the reason it's called white lies is because, I just Googled the mic before I came down here, that the reason it's called white lies is because it's morally pure. So it has nothing to do with race, just about it's because it's morally pure, so it's called the white lies. And the second kind of lies are called the blue lies. The blue lies are told in the name of collective. The reason they are called blue lies is because police tend to tell these kind of lies. So police actually lie a lot and lie sometimes in the name of justice. So that's why, because they are uniforms in blue, so therefore they are called blue lies. And oh, by the way, politeness lies or white lies, children tell them around 5, 6 years of age. And the collective lies or blue lies, children begin to tell them around 9 years of age. And the third kind of lies called the modesty lies or magenta lies. So these are the lies you tell to show humility, to be modest. So for example, these are the kind of lies typically told by kids or adults in Eastern Asian countries. So for example, if I get 100% from my math exam, if you ask me, Kang, how did you do with your math exam? I should say, not very good, not very good, even though I got 100%. You'll be very upset. You think I'm very phony and lying to you. But my parents and my teachers will be really liking it. But if I say I got 100%, and my teacher will take 5% away from my 100%. That actually happened to me before. So, and then the third kind, the fourth kind of lies I call pink lies. These are the lies we tell as parents for parenting purposes. So, for example, if you don't stop through the temper tantrum, I'm going to call the police and put you in jail. Some of you guys have told that kind of lies. I can guarantee that. And it turns out that this is a very universal phenomenon, and it has some negative consequences. That is, so the more you tell this kind of lies, your kids are more likely to lie back to you. And when they grow up, as a teenager or adults, they tend to have both internalizing and externalizing problems. So, but this is something we do all the time, interestingly. And the last kind of lies, this is the focus of today's talk, is I call green lies or self-interest lies. So what about these self-interest lies? So according to Stanley Hall, and he believed that the reason kids and adults tell lies because they lack of moral character. So his theory was really a dispositional theory that some kids or adults have this moral character somehow being developed, and therefore they don't lie. And those people tell lies, they tend to be lacking moral character. So that's the theory. And motivated by these theories, and Hasho and May were commissioned to conduct a large-scale study with more than 100,000 kids in the United States. And, but unfortunately, they failed to find this moral character. Instead, they found kids actually tell lies from one situation to another, and they are not constant. So sometimes they lie, sometimes they don't. So they actually came up with the idea of so-called the doctrine of specificity. So this idea is, it's your lie, the reason you tell lies is because of the situation. So their theory is basically is a very situation or context-specific theory. But after their studies, with time, more and more people studied this issue and discovered that, that's too simplistic a story. So, so here's our working theory. And we call it social decision theory. Basically, the reason there are two processes we tell lies. One is using system 1, which is automatic, fast, instinctive, fast, and decision making. But there are also another kind of lies we tell through slow and conscious thinking. So these are different kind of lies. And then both types of lies are likely to be motivated by some dispositional traits, some social cognitive abilities, and the motivations and situation factors. So this is sort of our working model along the way when we're doing the studies. So now let's look at the sort of factors contributing to the development of lying. So how do we study lying? Well, so the person who invented all the procedures we use today were actually the person by the name of Paul Volcker in his PhD thesis out of Columbia. And then somehow nobody kind of cited them. But the Hashon-May actually stole almost all the methods from Paul Volcker, and then they did the study. So I stole a lot of Hashon-May's methods in my studies. So this is one paradigm actually invented by Paul Volcker. So in this particular paradigm, we asked the kids to guess the numbers on the playing cards. And if they get the cards numbers correct, they would get a big prize. But in the middle of the game, the experimenter gets up and said, "I'm sorry, I have to go to the washroom." And then before she leaves, they say, "Do not peek at the cards." And then she leaves the room. But of course, we don't trust kids, so we put a lot of hidden cameras in the room. And typically, within about 10 seconds, a kid would peek. But that's not important, because we actually set up a situation to make the situation so tempting, we want all kids to peek. The question is, when we come back, we ask them, "When I was gone, did you peek?" And then we want to know whether or not kids are going to lie about their peeking. So this is what we found. So we discovered that at 2 years of age, only about 30% of kids would lie. And 70% of kids would tell the truth, would confess they actually peeked at cards. And at 3 years of age, the 50% lied and 50% tell the truth. And at 4 years of age, about more than 80% lied. And then afterwards, the majority of kids will lie. Interestingly, after 12 years of age, the lying rate actually goes down. By 16, the lying rate is about 60%. So then the question is, why, in particular, younger ones? So why some of the younger ones lie, some of the younger ones do not lie? So we've been spending more than 10 years looking for all sorts of factors that may be able to predict children's lying. So we looked at gender, we looked at temperament, we looked at children's moral understanding, we looked at country differences, we looked at the parenting styles, and whether or not the family the child comes from is religious or not. And it turned out these are all not predictors of children's lying, except for age. So what are the real factors that would contribute to children's lying? So maybe we have to really accept what Hashon-May actually concluded almost 100 years ago. But fortunately, we found something that you are very familiar with, which we call ingredients of lying. So we discovered that the theory of mind and executive functioning are able to predict significantly whether or not children are lying. Children are going to lie. And this is a very robust finding. But interestingly, it goes against my original hypothesis. It turned out young children with better theory of mind and better executive function tell lies earlier and are more sophisticated liars. So if you are interested, you can take a look at the 2021 paper in Developmental Science, which is the meta-analysis of all the studies that are out there about the relation between theory of mind, executive functioning, and lying. Now, at that point we learned that there's a correlation between theory of mind and lying, and executive functioning and lying. But is the theory of mind understanding causing children to tell lies, or executive functioning causing children to tell lies? So we did a 10-day training study. So in this particular study, the paradigm we called hide-and-seek game. In the game, we depict the experimenter in the game. So the experimenter would have his or her head turned away, and then we asked the participant, the child, to hide the candy in one of the boxes. And once it's hidden, and then experimenter turns around and asks kid, where did you hide the candy? If the child tells you where it's hidden, then experimenter actually go there and take the candy and eat it. So, and then it turns out, so at 3 years of age, majority of kids will not be able to inhibit the truth. They will tell you the truth that where the candy is hidden. And then we only selected these kids in our study. So then we randomly assign them into 2 groups. In one group, experimental group, we give them theory mind training, just talking about desires and beliefs and ignorance, knowledge, etc. And then in the control condition, we teach them how to solve Piagetian conservation tasks. And then we do this every other day for 10 days. And then we do a post-test and see whether or not kids are going to lie back to the experimenter so that they can win some candies. And then afterwards, so that's day 15, and on day 16, we do a follow-up. That is, when we finish the training, we want to see whether or not there's any lasting effect. And then we follow them up again on day 21, and then on day 47. So this is what we found. So basically, so at the beginning, of course, we select the kids who did not know how to lie, so the baseline is 0. And then, as you can see, in the experimental group, and the children are significantly more likely to lie during post-test than children in the control condition. And this effect actually lasts until day 47. That's the last day of our data collection. So as you can tell, training children how to solve theory mind tasks can actually generalize over to how they tell lies. I'm going to show you a video later on, okay, is to show you how it's done. And then we ask ourselves, so would us be able to use executive function training to get kids to lie? So initially we did the first study, number 1, it worked. So we significantly increased children's lying ability to tell lies between the control and the experimental conditions. In the second experiment, we used almost identical training methods with executive functioning, and it didn't work. And we tried one more time, I think, and still didn't work. So we don't know why it did not work. My hypothesis is that I learned from Adele Diamond's papers that executive function tasks are notoriously difficult to generalize. So maybe that's one of the reasons our results are not robust, or we fail to replicate our own study findings. Anyhow, so I'm still looking for generalizable EF training tasks. If you have anything to suggest, I would love to hear it. So anyhow, and one of my social psychologist friend came to visit me. He said, Kang, why don't you do the other way around? Can you teach kids to lie? And can we increase their theory of mind and executive functioning? We said, that's a great idea. So we got the ethics approval, and we tried this. So, and we use exactly the same method. So only difference is now we are teaching children how to tell lies. You say, hey, you cannot tell the person you hid the candy in this box. It should be somewhere else. And so with time, the kids learned how to tell us lies, as you can see. So initially, they don't know how to tell lies, and after we teach them, so about 10 days later, they can lie 70% of the time. And in the control condition, we did nothing, and of course, both groups couldn't really learn how to tell lies. So, but the most important thing is, do these kids' theory mind EF improve? The answer is yes. So this is EF scores, and this is theory mind scores. So as you can see, so if you train children to tell lies, you actually can improve their theory mind tasks, theory mind performances. You also can increase children's executive functioning. This is wonderful. So go home and teach your kids how to lie. So I believe lying somehow is a quite generalizable EF training task as well as theory mind task. Anyhow, so then we started looking to mind you, so we've looked at many things. And these are the only social cognitive abilities we have found robustly predicting children's lying. So then we switch over to look at the situational factors. And then we did so in the name of how to promote honesty in children. So we did this natural experimental study. So we were lucky to come across these 2 private schools in a Western African country. So the 2 schools are private schools. You have to pay fees to get in, so that the elites of this country would send their kids to these 2 schools. But the difference between these 2 schools are quite vast. In particular, in the punitive school, if you do something wrong, you'll be punished with a cane. And then, so there's a teacher who assigned to do the punishment. And the punishment would take place in the middle of the school, so the whole school, the kids in the whole school can hear it. So the punishment varies, depends on the problems that you have done, you have caused. For example, you forget to bring pencil to school. Let's say you get 2 canes twice. But if you fail to pass your math exam, you get, let's say, 10 times. So there are all these kind of rules written down in the school, and there's a log book about how many times you should strike the kid. So anyhow, so the study was terrible for my research assistants to do, because they just constantly hear crying in the school. But in the non-punitive school, there was run by the aunt of my RA. So she's from Canada, so she basically, if a kid misbehaves, the kid will be brought into the principal's office, her office, and get scolded. So there's no physical punishment. So these are the big differences. And my RAs actually developed fantasies about how to kill this teacher, because his responsibility is to beating up the kids. But anyhow, so this is what we found. So in the punitive school, children are more likely to lie. They are also more likely to tell better lies than the non-punitive schools. So the corporal punishment really is typically, when we talk to parents will say, I would reserve corporal punishment only when my kids lie to me. So, but it turned out that this is actually not a good way to foster honesty. So, and then we did a lot of studies to look at whether having a discussion with the children about the importance of truth-telling and negativity or consequences of lying would promote honesty. So in these kind of studies, we typically leave the room and the kids would peek and we come back in. But before we ask, when I was gone, did you peek? We will have more discussions with them. So in our control condition, these are 5-year-olds. In our control condition, we did nothing. We just asked, did you peek? So the lying rate is 80%, that's typical. And then, so in another condition, we would have more discussions with the kids about the importance of truth-telling and negativity of lying. And does that work? It's completely useless. So you are wasting your time, basically. And then along the way, we discovered, so we replicated this finding many times now. And then along the way, we've discovered maybe we can ask kids to promise to tell the truth. So once we do that, and the lying rate dropped significantly. So, and we have replicated this many times now, and it's a very robust finding. But curiously, when we access children's understanding of what is a promise, they actually know nothing about it. So they don't know what a promise is. But if we just say, would you promise to tell me the truth? And they will tell you the truth. But then kids are very tricky. If you say, kids say, okay, instead of I promise, they say, okay, and then they will lie to you. So if you want to promote truth-telling, you ask them to promise. I promise I'm going to tell the truth to you. Anyhow, so another thing we discovered was modeling. So we found that, so in the control condition, 5-year-olds, and the typical lying rate is 80%. And if you have the child watching another child, telling the truth about their transgression and being rewarded with a physical prize, and the lying rate dropped. But you can take away the physical reward, just give the child a verbal praise. You also are going to be able to promote honesty. So somehow modeling really is effective in promoting truth-telling. Okay, and then what about moral storytelling? So I'm sure some of you guys here are familiar with Tortoise and Hare, so which is a moral story, but it has nothing to do with truth-telling. So this is our control condition. So in this condition, so these kids are 5, 6, 7 years of age. So the lying rate is about 68%. So that's our control. So next question next story we read to kids was The Boy Who Cried Wolf. So we read not the Disney sanitized story, we read the original story, so in which the boy actually was eaten by the wolf. Okay, so what do you think? Do you think this story is going to promote truth-telling? If you say yes, please raise your hand. Not very many, so you're right. So it's useless. So it would not promote truth-telling. The reason for that we believed was because that kids at this young age don't know what death is. So, that to them is not really a threat because they have no concept of it. And therefore, the story is not useful. But what about Pinocchio? So, the Pinocchio story. So, if you lie, something negative happens immediately. So how many people think this story is going to be effective? It's a little bit more, but not a lot, okay? And you're right. So it's useless. So now comes to next question. So next story is George Washington's story. So if you are from the United States, you'll be told this story when you are likely in the elementary school. So most of the kids in the elementary school would know what George Washington's story is. So the story goes like this. So George Washington get an axe from his father as a gift. And he likes it. So he used it to chop here, chop there, and he chopped down his father's favorite cherry tree. So his father discovered that the cherry tree was chopped down, so he asked, so who chopped down my cherry tree? And George Washington said, I cannot lie, Dad. It's me who chopped down your cherry tree. And the father said, so I would rather have one honest child than 1,000 cherry trees. Okay, so that's the story. So what do you think? Is this story going to work? Not many, okay. And this story, by the way, is made up. It never happened. It's a lie, okay? But it promotes honesty in children. So this is so interesting. We say, wow, a lie actually promotes truth-telling. But then we thought maybe the big difference between this story and all the previous stories was that the story actually is very positive. So it's not about, if you lie, something negative would happen to you, but it's positively. If you don't lie, something positively is going to happen to you. Maybe that's the case. So what we did was we changed the story. So in the story, George Washington actually lied and was discovered by his father that he lied. And then he was scolded by his father. So what happened? And the lying rate went up. So I think so the moral of the story here is if you want to promote honesty in children, when you read stories to kids, you have to have positive message in the story. The reason I said this, we did a follow-up study we never published. So I thought this is interesting. So maybe I can create a super honesty promoting story in which I put The Boy Who Cried Wolf, the Pinocchio story, and George Washington all together in one single story. And I hired an English major to write the story, and I hired an artist to come in to do a very beautiful illustrations. And then we put them together, and then we read the stories to kids. And it didn't work. So I think the negative side washed out the positive side. So then kids are more likely, still very likely to tell a lie. In any case, so the positive moral story telling seems to promote honesty. And then, so anyhow, so now I'm going to move on to motivations, So we haven't really spent a lot of time looking at the motivations. In most of the previous studies, as you can tell, children have transgressed. So when they transgress, And the reason they lie is for self-preservation or self-protection. So this, I think, is one of the main reasons you see this developmental change with age, that younger kids probably didn't get it, that they have to protect themselves. With increased age, with their increased experience with their parents, they learn if they lie, if they get away with it, and then there will be no negative consequences. So this is then they can protect themselves. But another possible reason for children to lie is they want to gain benefits. So let me show you this study, which is the hide and seek study. So, and then this is a longitudinal study. We did it for 10 days. So this is the lying for self-protection. And I'm going to show you.
Discovery of lying study. The study is conducted over a 10-day period, and this is Tang Tang's first day. The researcher asks him to choose his favorite candy. Then she explains the rules of the game. He must hide a candy in one of the 3 cups. If Uncle finds the candy, he gets to eat it. If he can't, then Tang Tang gets the candy. The game is in full swing. Kang Lee covers his eyes, and Tang Tang hides the candy. When Lee asks, "Where's the candy?" Tang Tang readily points to the cup where he hid it. He keeps giving away his favorite candy because he's incapable of telling a lie. After 10 trials, it's time to call it a day. And Tang Tang gets a sticker for his effort. This is day 3 for Tang Tang. He looks wistfully at the candy. Telling a lie is actually a very complex affair. For Tang Tang to lie, he first has to inhibit the truth. Then he has to know that what he knows is something that Lee doesn't. He has to hold the truth in his mind while he invents a lie. This ability signals a crucial milestone in a child's development. Clearly, Tang Tang isn't there yet. Tang Tang has now been playing the game for 5 days. The first glimmer of a strategy appears when he covers the cup with his hand as if to hide the candy. But he still can't refrain from telling the truth. The next time when Lee asks where the candy is, he wavers. Something is beginning to stir. Will he actually figure out how to deceive Lee? He points to a cup. It's empty. He's won the candy this time. The look of triumph is unmistakable.
So anyhow, so we use how children learn to tell lies as the data. We run unsupervised clustering analysis to divide children into 3 groups. And it turned out there are 3 very unique groups of kids. So first group, they actually discover how to tell lies on the second day. So the first day, they already were doing this about 30% of the time. So their score was 30% of the time. And then the second group is doing it gradually, but still pretty good. And they get to the 8th day, they were 100%. And then there's a slow group. They discover lying very slowly. Even by the 10th day, less than 50% of the time, they would lie. So, and then what are the differences between them? So it turned out, so the slow discovery group had the lowest EF score and lowest theory mind score. And the intermediate discovery group, that's in the middle one, their EF score is good, but their theory mind score is lower. And then the final group, the fast discovery group, had a higher theory mind and EF scores. So again, showing the close connection between lying and theory mind and the EF. Okay, so now you know kids would lie for self-interest, for self-protection. So the question then is, would children generalize this kind of self-protection lies to someone else they care about, such as their parents. So let me ask you this question. So imagine, somehow one day you scratch someone else's car, right, by accident, and you tell your child, don't tell the other person that I scratched the car. Do you think your child is going to lie for you? If you think so, please raise your hand. Nobody. Only a few. I think you're honest. The other ones maybe not honest. Anyhow, so let me show you what would happen. Okay, so.
Ella and her mother have been invited to the University of Toronto's Institute of Child Study Lab to take part in the broken toy study.
I just realized that I must have left all of my papers in the other room, and we need them for all of our activities. So I'm going to have to go get them all together. So while I'm gone, you guys can just make yourselves comfortable, okay?
The study is designed so that the parent is a participant and has been asked to act according to a given script.
I like this. This is good to learn alphabet. Your brother would like this. He would love it.
Ella's mother has been told to ignore the do not touch sign. She asks Ella not to tell on her.
I thought it was soft. I didn't think it would move like that. Don't say anything, okay? It's gotta be a cow, no? What's that? Hi guys, sorry that took so long. So Mom, actually we have some forms in the other room for you to fill out. So now would be a great time for you to go fill those out. And Ella and I will get started on some of our activities, okay?
As part of the script, Ella's mother leaves the room.
Okay, so tell me everything you and your mom did while I was in the other room getting all of my forms.
Ella immediately reports on her mother.
So
did your mom ask you not to tell us that she broke the wobbly ball? Yeah.
So 80% of kids in this condition told the truth on their parents. Okay, and then, but you notice that we put the toy up high so that we can observe the fact the kid would be involved in this. But if we put the toy down at their eye level, and then the confessing rate, it was even higher, it's 90%. So, but the moral of the story is, you should not put away the money for your kids' college fund. You should cash them out and enjoy yourself, because no matter how much you love your kids, they will not lie for you. Okay. Anyhow, so let me do a quick summary here. So children begin to tell lies at 2 years of age, and theory, mind, and EF are two key contributors to development lying above and beyond age. And promise making, modeling, and positive moral story promote honesty, whereas a punitive environment fosters lying. So what I'm going to go is I'm going to switch gear to look at the question whether or not children are poor liars. So, and I'm going to ask you to be the participant. I'm sorry I didn't give you informed consent. So your job is very simple. So I'm going to show you 2 videos. In the videos, kids, we will ask, when I was gone, did you peek? And both of them said, no, I did not peek. But one of them actually lied. One of them peeked and lied, said, no, I did not peek. The other kid actually told the truth, that because the kid did not peek, said, no, I did not peek. Okay? So your job is very simple. So tell me whether or not the child number 1 is lying or child number 2 is lying. So this is child number 1.
Did you peek? No.
Okay? This is child number 2.
Did you peek? No.
Okay, those people who think child number 1 is a liar, please raise your hand. That's most of you. And those believe child number 2 is a liar, please raise your hand. Yeah, still not too bad. Okay, so this is now I'm going to give you another try. Okay, well normally I should tell you the actually who lied. So child number 1 is telling the truth. Child number 2 is lying. Okay, so maybe you say, well, I need a practice trial. So let's treat this as a practice trial. So here's child number 3. Okay.
Did you peek at the prize?
Okay.
Did you peek at the prize?
Okay, so what do you think? If you think child number 3 is a liar, please raise your hand. Very few. And those believe child number 4 is a liar, it's a lot. But as a matter of fact, child number 4 is a liar, child number 3 is a truth teller. Okay, so as you can see, you're not very good at detect children's lies. But don't worry, so actually nobody does. So that's what I'm going to show you. So your task is much simpler. So we actually did many studies with many participants. So what we did was we put all the kids who telling lies or truths just say no all the time. Some kids actually peeked, lied. Some kids did not peek, did not lie. We put the videos together and we show adults to judge whether or not a particular child, only video, one video at a time, not 2 videos simultaneously, whether or not the child's lying or telling the truth. So this is what we found. So, you know, the chance rate, because we have 50% of videos where kids are telling lies, 50% of videos the kids were telling the truth. So it's a 50-50 is the chance level performance. So we start with undergrads and law school students. Can they detect children's lies? They cannot. But it's understandable because most of them have very limited experience with kids. So this performance is our control condition. Then what about social workers and child protection lawyers? So these are the individuals who are actually dealing with children on a daily basis. Their job actually is decide whether or not the child come to their child protection services to be telling the truth or lying. Can they detect children's lies? The answer is no, they cannot. So then we say, okay, maybe we should get participants who actually deal with liars all the time. So these are judges. You know, a judge's real job really every day is decide which witness or which side is telling the truth. And then the study was done actually, you know, and the next one is the custom officers. So the reason we had the custom officers was because one of my former students was a custom officer herself. So, and she got permission from her old job to do the study with her colleagues with the condition that if the results are not good, we should not tell anyone where the border crossing was. So anyhow, so then we also got the police officers to do the task. And can they detect children's lies? Not, they cannot. So then some parents said, well, you know, these are kids. I'm a parent, I can detect children's lies. So we will show videos of other parents' kids to these parents, and we want to see whether or not they can detect other parents' kids' children's lies. And the answer is no, they cannot. So some parents said, well, you know, Kang, you know, I know I cannot detect other parents' kids' lies, but I can tell my kids are lying. So they say, I want to know whether or not that's true. So in order to do this study, we basically brought parents to our, the kids to our lab, and then we take the child into one room, doing the peeking paradigm, and we take the parent to our control room, and then in the control room, when we ask the child, when I was gone, did you peek? And we show the video to the parents. So their job is very simple, just like you just did, and say, yes, my child lied, or no, my child did not lie. And what did we find? Nothing. So you actually cannot detect your own children's lies based upon their facial expression or nonverbal behaviors. So that was really disappointing to me. So then I said, well, you know, we need to find a way to detect children's lies. You know, we really want to raise kids honestly. So one of the things I always want to do is I want to detect children's lies using contactless methods, not attaching, let's say, electrodes to their body. Then they realize they are under scrutiny or under surveillance. So how do you do this? So one way to do this was when I arrived at UC San Diego, a postdoc came to my office, and her name is Marnie Bartlett. So Marnie just invented a new machine vision system that trained on Ekman's facts. So she could detect your facts, facial muscle movements, frame by frame, very, very fast. So she said, Kang, can we collaborate? I said, of course. So then we did a bunch of studies. And it turned out this method is very effective, actually. So we ran a few studies, and we found that the ultimate decoding of facial expression along with machine learning, okay, not by other statistical methods, but machine learning, reveals deception in children and adults with high accuracy. So then I left UC San Diego to University of Toronto, and she set up a startup company, and the company was bought by Apple. So if you have an Apple phone, iPhone in your pocket, and one of her algorithms in it, that is for you to send personalized emojis to your friends. So that's her invention. Anyhow, so she became a multimillionaire. And afterwards, when I sent her emails, never got anything replied. But there is a problem, however, with this automated facial expression encoding, because we discovered when we looked at children's facial expressions in these videos that a lot of kids actually do not show very much facial expression. So this is what they look like when they lie to us. So no facial expression. Once that happens, then you cannot do anything. So this took me about 10 years to thinking over how can I detect children when their facial expression is neutral. And then when I was visiting a friend of mine who was doing imaging of cosmetic industries, and the idea came to me that we possibly could image the facial blood flow using some kind of video imaging system. So that idea came to me, and then I talked to my postdoc at that time, and we said, let's see whether or not it's going to work. And the reason we believe it's going to work is because our face actually is one of the is very rich in blood vessels, and the neural control of the blood flow activity is actually done by the brain stem, and which is beyond conscious control. So if we can, and then different parts of the blood flow in our face are controlled by different neurons in the brain stem. So they deal with differences. Some of them deal with constriction, some of them deal with the vasodilation. And if you can image different parts of the blood flow on the face, and then look at the patterns of that blood flow, maybe we will be able to detect lies. So that was the idea. And it turned out it's not difficult to implement this idea because we have some very incredible imaging system on our hand. This is an iPhone. In the iPhone, and most of you actually have that inside there's a very powerful sensors made by Sony. It calls CMOS chip that is highly, highly sensitive to photons in your environment. And so basically what happens is when light comes down to your face, your skin is translucent. So the lights actually do not bounce off. The light actually penetrates under your facial skin. And then once it got down underneath the epidermis, it interacts with two major types of proteins. One is melanin, which is sort of like brown. So, and then that determines the skin color. And the other one is hemoglobin, which is red. And because these two kind of tissues or proteins have different color signatures, and so some of the photons would be absorbed by these tissues, but some of the photons actually would make the photons scatter, but some of them actually got bounced off out of the skin. And once they are out of the skin, you can put your camera in front of the skin to pick up these photons. And then we are able, because the color signatures of the melanin and hemoglobin are different, so we can throw away the information about melanin, and we can take the hemoglobin using machine learning and advanced biosignal processing. So that's exactly what we did. So, and we call this method transdermal optical imaging. So it's totally contactless. And this is what your eyes can see, but this is what the transdermal optical imaging can see. So this is the one frame of the image. So basically, the darker pixels are the blood flow is low, and the brighter pixels are the blood flow is high. But this is one frame. But typically, our phones can take 30 frames per second. So you can stitch together all these images, and then you can see the increase and decrease of blood flows in the child when the child is lying or doing various kind of things. So that's basically the technology. And then with this, then we develop I'm sorry to brag about this. So this is the world's first contactless lie detector. So basically, I can put, it's actually in my machine. So I can put it in front of you, put the camera here facing you, and then I can ask you questions, and then I can immediately, I can actually get, as you can see, so we will see your blood pressure, systolic and diastolic blood pressure increase and decrease. We can also see your heart rate increase or decrease, your breathing change. On top of this, for free, we can also decode your facial expressions on this side. So anyhow, so we can also measure your stress. This is the heart rate variability. And on top of this, and we discovered we actually can go back in history by looking at the existing recorded videos. And as far back as Bill Clinton, when he said, "I did not sleep with that woman." And then you can actually use the videos to process. And so let me play this to you. So you, as long as the video quality is sufficiently good, you can actually extract various physiological data from this subject, Trump, as well as their emotional expressions. So we were very happy about this, and I got invited by, so I kind of stopped doing work with the kids. I'm sorry to say that. So I got invited by FBI, Homeland Security, and TSA, Transportation Authority, or whatever, in the US. So they wanted me to devise some kind of system to detect you guys when you go through the airport. So I went there, had a conversation with them, and they really liked the technology. But interestingly, one of the officials from the Homeland Security said, "Kang, you should not waste your technology on government projects." So she said that you should, because this thing could be good for help people to learn about their health. So you should not do lie detection, but to do something about health. So I thought this actually is a very good advice from someone from Homeland Security who actually invited me to do lie detection. Anyhow, so we took her idea, and so we developed something during the pandemic. And you would appreciate it if you are a doctor. So, you know, these patients come to the hospital, and nurses would have to do intake and with a lot of, you know, contact-based measurements. But using this method, you don't have to. So this person comes in. So we put this our program in this pad. So the pad actually has a thermal pile, so it measures her temperature right away. And then it starts to measure her heart rate. And within 30 seconds, her heart rate shows up. And with another 15 seconds, and then we will be able to measure her breathing, blood pressure, stress, and a bunch of other things, including BMI as well. So this is the one possibility. We can use this for medical research as well. And then next one is, so this is, and again, during the pandemic, some patients would not be able to come to the hospital, so the doctors have to do this like telemedicine. So in this case, actually, this is a pregnant woman. So we monitor her on a daily basis because during pregnancy, one of the high-risk conditions is called eclampsia, which is basically pregnancy-induced hypertension, which is dangerous if not being discovered and treated. So anyhow, so you can have doctors and patient link up in this way using our method. Okay, I'm almost there. And so this is one method that you can use. And another thing is, so tomorrow we're going to have a poster, and we want to study whether or not we can design robots that can help parents when parents are not available, so we can have a robot interact with the baby. So this is a study we just did in the summer in Japan, and we we video record the baby's face and the mother's face using iPad. Then we process the videos, and then we look at the physiological activities in the mother as well in the baby. If you are interested, please come to see and talk to Masa Yamaguchi-san. Okay, and then so for you, we also have created the app. So it's free. So if you're interested, you can download this by scan the iOS on the left-hand side and Android on the right-hand side. So what it does is actually in 30 seconds, it measures your physiology, your heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, your stress, as well as your the risks of hypertension, diabetes, etc. Okay, but for the free version, unfortunately, we cannot give you certain things, not because we cannot. Apple and Google are competing with us. They have some secret projects there, so they actually shut us down. So we only could give you, in the free version, the basics. Anyhow, so but give it a try. So we also discovered our technology doesn't have to use the RGB video imaging systems. We can use infrared camera. So in this case, so this is the Paul Zen. So he and I invent this method. So he is driving, but this is in daytime. But we are using an infrared camera, and so that we can pick up his blood pressure, heart rate, and things like that. So in the near future, you may drive, let's say, Audi or BMW that would implement something like this. So for example, if you have road rage, your music, your system will play some calming music for you. So, and one of the things we want to do really, I'm doing a study now, is to using this technology to monitor baby sleep, in particular when they are under about 12 months of age, because getting baby to sleep is a big struggle for a lot of new parents. So we want to learn whether or not we can use this method to help parents to learn about their children's sleeping behaviors and physiology. So this is all completely contactless. So in summary, so adults in general have difficulty detecting children's lies. Contactless and covert detection of children's lies is possible with the use of computer vision and machine learning, which unfortunately I got distracted by this Homeland Security lady. So I'm coming back. Now in the next 5 years, I probably will do something about children's lying. So I always have something to report back to you. So, and with regard to future work, so I don't know, you guys have been playing with the GPT, ChatGPT, and so I discovered that there's another function you actually can use for ChatGPT is to use it as an oracle to see what studies I need to do next. So I asked the question, ChatGPT, what are the least studied topics of children's lying? And the results are amazing. I totally agree. So the rule of culture, the infant's lying, neural basis of lying, effects of children lying on social and emotional development, and including impact on their relationships with peers and adults, and finally the development lying in children with developmental disabilities or other special needs. The only thing GPT missed was the system 1 or system 2 lying, because most of the studies done so far are about system 1 lying. Very few studies have been done with regard to system 2 line. So this is another thing I want to do in the near future. But I would like to borrow, can I borrow 30 minutes of the time? So I can do a demo for you to show you, I'm not just using using PPT to fool you, but actually it works. So if you don't mind. Hope it, oops, doesn't, oh, yes. So this is the app called Anura, but this is a research Anura, so with all the functions. So it takes 30 seconds, so you forgive me. Okay, so we don't actually take videos. We actually just extract your blood flow data. And then we send to the cloud, the Amazon cloud. And we in full compliance with the EU standards. So, so data will be analyzed in about 30 seconds. The reason my heart rate is high is not because I'm nervous. It's actually because I've been giving a talk. So you probably have never realized when you teach, your heart rate increases dramatically. So my basal heart rate is 65. So this is really a big exercise for me, okay? So now, so the data comes back. So my heart rate is 119. And it also says I have irregular heartbeat, which one is okay. But if you so basically I want to tell you each result data point is based upon many machine learning models. So, and it also tells you whether or not you have arrhythmia, which is irregular heartbeat. So if you have more than 3 or 4, you should be worried a little bit. Typically when you drink coffee, you will have that. Anyhow, so my breathing and my systolic blood pressure and the diastolic blood pressure, both of them are okay. And then, so this is my stress, 3.5, which is okay. So this is, it's the right amount of stress for me to give a talk, but not hugely stressed. But my typical stress is about exactly 4, which would allow me to give a very good talk. So I'm sorry today, my stress level is 3.5. But so here is something very unique. So here tells my BMI, which is calculated, but I actually have a model behind this, tells you your estimated BMI, but it tells me I look like 60. I just turned 60 last October. So it's very accurate. And then so now next thing is, so I'm going to, tells me about in 10 years, my cardiovascular disease, heart disease, heart attack or stroke risk. Here are the more modern ones. So I spend a lot of time developing this. I'm sorry, so kind of distracted by this. So I can detect the hypertension risk. It's very accurate. And then we have type 2 diabetes risk, as well as a high cholesterol and a high lipids in your blood. And then they give me a score. This is a terrible score, 68. I typically get 80. So right now I'm in exhaustion, I guess. So anyhow, so that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
So we have some time for questions. Let me just go back there first. Over there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this great talk. I really enjoyed it a lot and learned a lot of stuff. So just my question, I was reading this science fiction book by a Chinese author called Liu Ziqing. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's called The Three-Body Problem, if somebody is interested. And it's about an alien race who is about to invade Earth and kill everybody. But humanity has a superpower, and that is lying. Okay, yes. So what do you say to that? Do you really think that it is actually very useful that we can lie? Is it useful to us?
Yes, lying. So I actually earlier I talked to Mike Thomas-Sullivan. I said, lying, as it turned out, is not a moral problem. It's not a moral behavior. So children learn to tell lies. It's a cognitive problem. So children actually solving a cognitive problem. But why they have to solve this cognitive problem? The reason for that is think about this. So in your family, in the school, as a child, you don't have political power. You don't have physical strength. So how you can get away with things, how you can fend off this, big mom, big dad, and older kids. And then you have to realize and find an adaptive way to do that. And in order to do that, you simply need to just move your lips, but you have to know the theory of mind, and you have to be able to inhibit the truth and create something alternative. Once you have that, you can manipulate all the other people, and then they can survive and they can thrive. I think that's the main reason children tell lies, and maybe sometimes we adults tell lies as well. So most of the time we tell lies for self-protection. And I mentioned to others, I've never met a child, or we've seen so many kids, I never met one single child who would lie to get others into trouble. They tend to tell lies to get themselves out of trouble. So that's a big difference. But coming back to the three-body novel, yes, that was very clever of him to come up with this idea. You know, the aliens, because they can read mind, they cannot tell lies. And using that as a weapon, we can then the humans beat this very powerful alien race.
Thank you. It is a really great pleasure to listening to you. Maybe my question will bring us to the beginning, to the early parts of the presentation, but I want to ask, in one of the studies that you mentioned, and you comment children that don't look at the card after the presenter experimenter left the room, and younger children who were looking at the cards tell the truth more than the older children. Well, what about the children who really did not cheat and not look at the cards? And where we put these children? Why they don't prefer to look at the card while the experimenter is not in the room? So maybe they behave. They were the honest in the beginning of the situation.
Excellent question. So this actually is the work I've been doing in the last 5 years. So I have switched my focus from lying to cheating. And so these are the kids who do not cheat. And they are very different from those kids who cheat. So but mind you, so in all our studies, we create a situation very, very tempting that most kids is our trap. So most kids will cheat. Then we look at lying. But if you do it naturally, to create a situation that's moderately tempting, then some kids cheat, some kids don't cheat. So then you look at them, very interesting. So theory, mind, executive functioning are actually correlated with whether or not they are going to cheat. But it's the opposite. So that is, the higher EF, the higher theory mind, less likely you're going to cheat. But once you cheat, then the whole thing turned upside down. So once you cheat, the higher EF, higher theory mind, the more likely you're going to lie. So it's very adaptive behavior when you lie, but cheating, not so much. So this is it's very interesting differences. So this is what I'm still exploring, why these two things are so different currently.
Thank you so much for this very inspiring talk. I enjoyed very much. So my question is about some of the videos you showed, especially with the youngest children, who are laughing when in this lying situation. And I was wondering whether this was, when it develops, when it begins to develop, whether it is specific for lying or it makes me think about humor also. So other mental states.
Yes,
thank you.
Interesting. So yes, I think one child has a kind of smirk on his face, and that kind of made you think he was lying, but he was actually not lying at all. So he did not cheat, so he was not lying. And when we look at the facial expressions across so many kids, there's no common emotional behavior. A facial expression that indicates whether or not the child's lying or telling the truth. So I don't know whether you've read a relatively recent book by Gladwell, Malcolm Gladwell. So the name is called Talking to Strangers. So, and basically the conclusion, so this is the general conclusion which goes against most of psychologists' common sense beliefs that when you lie, your facial expression or body language is going to reveal the fact that you are lying. There must be something associated with lying. But it turned out there's no such thing, both for kids and for adults. So that's one of the, I think, very robust findings in the literature. So I think so that's number one. But but that's why the liar's delight. Sometimes some people talked about, when you lie, you smile, and I don't think that actually exists. So, but in cheating, there is cheater's delight. So again, these two things are different. I'm still just at the beginning of looking at the cheaters when they before cheating, when they after cheating. I have a PhD student who is looking at this. So I will tell you maybe in a couple of years what we find.
I have a question. So one way of lying probably is also to withhold the truth. And whether there's any research, is that a lie? Is that a fully fledged lie? And probably if not, what you would think about the developmental onsets of that capacity?
Yes, it's actually in the literature, in the philosophy literature called the lying by omission. So what I've talked about are lying by commission. So, and then there's debate about whether that's a lie. But I consider that if you actively withhold information intentionally, I think that is a form of lying. And very, almost no study done with kids. There's some studies done with adults.
Thank you for the talk. I was just really, I'm here. I was just really puzzled by the finding. Why would teaching kids to lie make them better at executive function? Can you please say a few words on that?
Yeah, so I think this is my kind of hand-waving theory. Is think about lying, right? So lying requires me knowing you do not know what I know, right? So that's theory mind, right? And then also lying meaning I have to inhibit the truth. I have to switch over to switch and create an alternative truth, and holding the real truth in mind, but telling you the alternative truth. So these are these two elements is part and parcel of lying itself. So by teaching kids to tell lies, we are basically training them theory mind and executive functioning. I think that's why you see these kind of results. And another thing I think maybe is because then kids are more engaged in this, and therefore the learning of theory mind and EF is faster than these typical EF training tasks. It's kind of boring. So I think that could be one of the reasons.
Any more questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was just a curiosity question about your application. You measure the stress. You have a stress index. And I was very curious about if you could explain how does it work and how you went there.
Yes, so the stress index we developed is based upon heart rate variability. So the heart rate variability refers to the fact that when our heart beats, we actually don't beat in unison. We don't beat in a constant interval. If we do that, you are going to die, actually. So your heartbeat actually varies. So even though in 1 minute your heartbeat is 70, but sometimes you beat faster, sometimes slower. So the more relaxed you are, you'll have a higher heart rate variability. If you are stressed, you have lower heart rate variability. So your beat goes more like some kind of drum beat. So that is bad for you. So anyhow, so there are about 30-some indexes of heart rate variability, the measuring different aspects of heart rate variability. They are highly correlated with all sorts of things, including disease, including lying. People have done lying work, and many other stress-related things. Anyhow, so what we did was we took the 30 seconds heart rate variability, basically is the pulse, and then we convert them into these 30-something measures. Then we do a little bit machine learning plus actually fact analysis, and then we put them back together into one single index. So that's how we did it. So we have a paper we're going to submit. So if you're interested, just shoot me a line. I can send you the manuscript about what's behind it. But this is just my way of to measure stress, acute stress, so that I don't need to use cortisol measurements, which is cumbersome and not reliable. So this is a really highly reliable measure of stress that we know for almost 200 years. And in the medical field, we use this to actually look for infants who may in distress, and they may die of let's say the preemies may die prematurely. They tend to show low heart rate variability before they die. So this is turned out to be a very effective method to prevent child deaths, infant deaths actually. So.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for the presentation. What I want to ask is about, at the very beginning of your presentation, you mentioned about that when you want to encourage a child to speak the truth, it's better to tell a positive story to encourage them to be honest, and don't threaten them. Then it will be better result. But actually, there is a study showing, which is called a positivity effect, which is showing that the elder people is more tend to accept the positive things. For example, if you want to persuade them, like for example, if you are a marketing guy, you want to sell a real estate to the elder people, it's better to say, okay, if you buy this flat and when there's a festival and you can gather your family here to enjoy or something. And for the young people, they are more easy to accept things with the negative. They are afraid of that. It's better to threaten the young people. If you are selling insurance and you're gonna say, okay, don't if buy a life insurance or something, otherwise there will something happen. So this is the key idea from the positivity effect. So how would you see the difference? Because for young people, you mentioned that you want them to tell the truth and then you encourage them. But from the positivity effect perspective is different. So how would you explain this?
So I have not done like, the effective storytelling with different aged individuals up to, adulthood and elderly. So my stopping time is about 16 years of age. But this is very interesting because in advertisements, that's the, cigarette smoking. Positive discussion with kids apparently or advertisement is useless, and you have to really make it very negative in order to persuade individuals to not to take up smoking. So I don't know why, these two things are different. So this is a very interesting question. So, and that should be explored developmentally whether or not this positivity effect would work for older individuals, number one. Number two is whether or not this positivity effect in our study can generalize to other moral behaviors such as generosity, or things like that, or whether or not it only kind of limited to honesty promotion.
The last question.
What I thought was interesting, I was thinking about why training kids in EF did not lead to better lying. Well, I imagine both theory of mind and effortful control should be necessary conditions for being able to lie, but not necessarily sufficient. Okay, so what if we train kids in EF, but also gave them a good reason and motivation to lie? Only maybe in this kind of task, we would be able to observe that EF does actually also increase lying, possibly.
That's an excellent idea. So basically, the idea is, maybe the way to do it is actually to do theory of mind training and EF training together. So that may have added the benefits than just train children to learn theory of mind itself. So that would allow us to test your hypotheses. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I'm going to steal this idea.
Thank you, Kang. It was excellent.
Thank you so much.